Conservative leader. 3 MPs, James Cleverly, Robert Jenrick and Tom Tugendhat, have already set their standing. Mr. Strides is the best candidate to unite the party.
The fact I have across the party, the fact I was chair.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Matt Cornish. I'm Programme Director for Digital Services for Patients and the Public Programme. We did just have a little bit of a live mic there from somebody in the background, so I can see that someone's been able to turn it off, which is fantastic. Welcome to the latest e-update from the programme. It has been a little time since we have provided an e-update of our progress, and so we wanted to be able to come back to you today. I am joined by Mike Smith, our Head of Communications, who has orchestrated this today, and by Joe Dundon, our Lead for Engagement, particularly with the public. And so Joe is also going to work with me in terms of providing this update to you. As per normal, we will provide the update. We'll be very happy for you to put questions into the chat, which we will then pick up at the end in however long you want to spend on question and answer. We'll also take questions in the more conventional way. If people want to put up their yellow hand, so to speak, then we'll take questions there. What we will also do is we'll also provide our answers to those questions afterwards, so that everybody can reflect on those answers and can share it for those who aren't able to join. Mike has put the record button on. We are recording this session as we do for all of our e-updates. That's to ensure that they can be shared widely for those who aren't able to attend today. So I hope that's useful. Mike, if you're willing to go to the next slide, that'd be fantastic. So as a programme update, a number of key areas which I wanted to talk to and to explain progress with. Many of you will be aware that we've been developing a Welsh identity verification service. This service provides an alternative means for members of the public in Wales to be able to prove their identity so that it can be uplifted by NHS login, the service we rely on England, so that you can gain full use of the NHS Wales app, particularly full use in terms of access to primary care data that is available in your GP practice. So we have developed that feature. That feature is being piloted currently, and I'll talk a little bit more on the next slide about where we've got to. But that's our main area of effort at the moment because we recognise how important that feature is. We also have a number of other features which we've been developing. A linked profiles feature, which will support the ability within a GP practice for an individual to be able to support the health and care of another. And so that's important to us. Again, we want to be able to pilot that feature to prove that it works effectively, work with GP practices to ensure that we can make the best introduction of it for patients and clearly for practices in using that feature. There are 2 other features as well, which we're in a stage of deployment. Our health timeline, which will allow us to be able to show an increasing range of health events within the NHS Wales app, part of our core architecture. We are gaining feedback from pilot practices and patients on that feature, and we'll continually improve it as we do with every feature. We are working with our Welsh Government partners in identity standards, and certainly the identity standards needed for the Welsh Identity Verification Service to ensure that there is equity with standards applied in England, and to ensure that it's easy for patients and the public to be able to prove their identity, particularly if they're using the WIB service. So lots of positive work in that area. For the programme itself, as well as developing important features, we are also working with our partner to be able to support a transition of how we support the NHS Wales app, so that we in Digital Health and Care Wales can maintain greater control into the future. So we already have members of our team employed within Kainos, our partner, as developers. We are about to start to be able to put operations, platform and support staff into our partner so that they can be upskilled, with the aim that by the end of November, we'll be able to maintain the NHS Wales app ourselves. We still intend to carry on working with Kainos. They're a useful partner to us, and they've been very helpful in the work which we've done. But there's an important strand of work for us, which will allow us to give far more control and certainty into the future. We have improved our service support model. We continue to do that, recognising that we have many more people who've adopted the NHS Wales app. We've had a good 15 months of learning the NHS Wales app as a live service. And as we've moved on, we've worked out how we can improve different aspects of it, particularly when people report issues to us and how we go about resolving those issues. The art of the live service has shown actually we've got a really good understanding of the issues which have come to us, many of which we've been able to resolve. So that's been important. Over the last few months, we did receive a additional funding dividend to be able to develop some planned care features on behalf of the Planned Care Board. This money from Welsh Government recognising productivity benefits that could be achieved across the health and care system. So we're in the stage of just architecting actually how that's going to take place over the remainder of this financial year. What we're looking at is being able to show aspects of waiting list to patients and the public, to be able to show appointments in secondary care to patients and the public. We will do things on a piloted basis. So we're just working out the finality, the final bits of the technical solution, how we draw on information from systems in DHEW to be able to provide that information, and then working with clinicians and working with patient groups to be able to work out how we're going to do this. So that's a really important development and a step change from where we've been. In the immediate term, or certainly in the next few months, we're making progressions towards the launch of our national publicity campaign. That's important to us because we want to grow the number of people across Wales that are using the NHS Wales app and gaining benefit from it. That campaign, or one of the essentials for that campaign, is that we've got a Welsh Identity Verification Service available to everybody in Wales, because we recognise that a good portion of the population may not or cannot use the existing single route through NHS login. So we want to provide that alternative, ensure that we don't leave anybody behind. That's important to us in the programme. It's important to Digital Health and Care Wales. So that's the kind of the big picture of where the programme is at the moment. A really important phase. I will talk a few more slides later about some of our other areas of focus, which hopefully will be of interest to you. I'll now hand across to Joe Dundon, and Joe can talk about actually some of the numbers, what we've seen in terms of people being adopted to the app, and also some of the feedback which we've got. So I'll hand across to Joe.
Thank you very much. Sorry, my mute button's on is playing up today. Thank you, Matt. So as you can see, these are statistics for up to the 30th of June. And you can see we had 2.5 logins, total logins. The figures are actually increased over the last month, and we can now say we've got nearly 250,000 logins that people have been logging in as individual logins. And that's equates to 2.4 million total logins. So that's a really good figure for us. As you can see, we've also captured information on repeat prescriptions and the GP record, health record views, how many appointments have been booked, and how many downloads there have been since we started, and how many appointments have been cancelled. And as you can see, the trajectory is really positive, and that more people are using the app for different reasons. Mainly, I think the prescriptions is probably the biggest one for us. I just want to go to the next slide, Mike. So I'll pass back to Matt.
Pass to me. So I said I was going to talk a little bit more about the Welsh Identity Verification Service. As I said, we're planning to test it, or we're testing it with 4 GP practices and up to 40 members of the public who we've identified. We were able to deploy this feature in early July, and importantly, we were able to prove that the feature worked. So for a couple of patients that we started to work with, we were able to show that they were able to get the uplift and to be able to see more through NHS login and their uplift being enabled. But importantly, we got learning from this pilot phase. And so we recognised that there was a need for us to be able to carry out some important changes, certainly to be able to support patients in terms of information about the number of retries they get, so to speak, or how that could be managed more effectively, to be able to trim the spaces so that there's less potential for errors as people enter information, and to improve detail in terms of our resource pages and our error pages and what gets presented to members of the public. And the reason that we do that is so that members of the public are more likely to be able to get it right first time, more likely that they're managing their expectations, and less likely that they're going to have to go either to us or to GP practices and say, what's up here, I don't know what's wrong, because it's important to us, given the reliance on GP practices, but we're not putting extra pressure on them. So we're intent on carrying out those important changes, which we're doing at the moment, and we want to be able to recommence our pilot in the next week or so, so beginning of August. That's what we want to aim for. And then for 2 or 3 weeks in August, complete the pilot, and then go back to our Welsh Government officials, and then go back to our GPC Wales partners, GP community, and to be able to explain the outcomes of what we've learned and what we've been able to do. So that's our key focus on this particular feature. And then from there, we'll agree a deployment date and a deployment method. So it's all kind of agile and make sure that the program works, and all informed by the learning which we've gathered. And we really want to listen to those practices who we've worked with, take their voices and hopefully their support into those particular meetings. So next slide, please, Mike. We're also taking feedback from strategic programs at the moment across Wales, so a key partner group for us. And so we've been listening to the Strategic Primary Care Programme and their work with the All Wales GP cluster leads, and to understand what would add most value to them. And so they've come back to us and they've said, look, what would really add value to us would be some joint work in terms of the summary record and what that's able to do, but the controllability of it. There's also a wider appreciation of the work we're doing with planned care, and what that will enable in terms of waiting lists and being visible, but they wanted to have an valuable input in that. One for the future, exploring a solution, Vision 365, which enables their practices to work more effectively. And then 3 important strands of kind of discovery work. So, effectively information sharing, patient letters and advanced care plans, as it says there. How we can work to support people with long-term conditions, particularly to better manage their health and care, and also support to the cluster network and wider working, and what we can do with community pharmacy, social prescribing and the like. And so we're responding to them in terms of wrapping those into features that we could collaborate with in the future. Now, there's a slide which follows in a minute, which talks about future priorities and what we're planning to do to be able to prioritise, and what we want to be able to do for primary care, as we want to do for all programmes, is to define the priorities which are going to matter most to them in both supporting the health and care system, but also meeting patient needs. So that's an illustration of what we've got and where we're being informed. Right, I'll step onto the next slide because this will talk to it in a bit more detail. So next slide, please, Mike. So we are planning a roadmap workshop. This workshop will take place on the 17th of September. We've sent the initial invitations out to a wide cross-section of people across Wales. We want about 50 people to take part in this prioritisation workshop, and the aim of the workshop will be for delegates to be asked to effectively rank, to prioritise about 32 features, our top 32 features that we've got on our wider roadmap in terms of the benefits which they'll provide and the ease of which they will be able to be implemented. And so we can get to a prioritised list, which we can then provide back to Welsh Government, back to Mike Emery as our CDIO and our sponsor, to be able to say, look, this is what people in Wales want, both public and those service stakeholders. So we're doing a lot of work before that to be able to refine the features. And of course, we want to be able to share them out in advance so that those people who are delegates at the workshop can engage with others and draw in their feedback, so they're true representatives. This isn't a one-off or planned to be a one-off. We would like to be able to repeat this every 6 months because we recognise roadmaps change, new opportunities arise, and we want to make sure that we've been informed about the things which are going to add most value. Now, they might be the quick wins, the things which are relatively low effort but high benefit, but equally there could be things in there which we identify as high value and high effort, the things which we need to sustain our focus on. So it's an explanation about how we're seeking to change and adapt as a programme. For a long time we have focused on the core functionality which is in the NHS Wales app. Our future is working out which direction we extend and what we're able to do, which is going to add most benefit, and particularly if that's linked to core platform, core functionality we've already got, making more use. Next slide, please, Mike. I mentioned, our path towards the national publicity campaign. A campaign under the strap line, your health and well-being, anytime, anywhere, is our focus. It's about promoting the NHS Wales app, the opportunities which the NHS Wales app will enable. I mentioned the work which we're doing with planned care, and our step more broadly away from primary care and what we can do in a say more holistic way. We're also focused at the moment on developing resources, apps, other digital resources, which we want to be able to provide in a portal within the NHS Wales app, which will allow people to be empowered and better informed in how they can manage their own health and care. That was one of the priorities given to us by the planned care sponsors, but it was activity which we were already engaged in. So we want to be able to do more with the NHS Wales app, which will allow people to see benefit to them. So as I mentioned, the campaign is slated for the next 2 to 3 months' time, but that'll all be dependent on our progress with WIBs. WIBs is the most important feature to get there. Next slide, please. Here we go. A few more images of the campaign, how it will appear. We will seek to use every means to be able to promote the campaign. We have a commercial partner which will work with us, but we also want to use networks in health boards and trusts to be able to amplify the effects of the campaign, because we recognise, even a national campaign of what we're planning, we do have limited funding, but we want to be able to achieve as much as we possibly can in promoting the NHS Wales app and building on the really, really good start that Joe described. The fact that we've got 250,000 people who've adopted the NHS Wales app already. Okay, next slide, Mike.
Next slide, Matt, is the demo video for the NHS Wales app.
Fabulous. So we've got a new demonstration video of the NHS Wales app, which refreshes what the NHS Wales app does and what it's planned to do in the very much immediate term. As and when we make more progress with planned care, which we hopefully start next week, first week of August, then we'll be able to refresh that and bring that back to you. But we wanted to provide it as an illustration of where we are and where we're going. So I'll let Mike play that. It's beautifully voiced, and then we'll go to Q&A afterwards. Thanks, Mike.
Welcome to your NHS Wales app. It has been designed as a core foundation platform and your front door to access NHS services and is available on smart devices such as mobile phones and tablets or via an internet browser. To access the NHS Wales app, you will need to log in using your NHS login account. The app has been meticulously designed with ease of use and accessibility in mind. The top navigation bar allows users to return to the home screen, choose to switch between Welsh and English language preferences, find help using the app, and to view in-app messages. The appointment feature allows you to create, edit, and manage appointments offered by your GP practice. The core of this great feature is the booking engine, which can also be utilised for appointment scheduling outside of primary care in the future. The prescriptions feature allows you to order repeat prescriptions from your GP with an optional additional note section for you to provide more information. You can also find and nominate your local pharmacy and receive a notification when your prescription is ready for collection. The health record feature allows you to view your medical records if your practice enables this feature. This may contain information such as allergies, medicines, immunizations, health conditions, test results, and more. My Health Timeline will allow you to see health-related events in a chronological order in one place, whilst the Health Journal will allow you to document and track your health events in the NHS Wales app. And this is only the beginning. Working together, we can make more NHS and third-party health and care services accessible through the NHS Wales app.
There we go. Thank you, Mike. We'll just move to Q&A now. Now, I was concentrating on speaking to you. Any first questions or hands up or anything which Joe or Mike you want to kind of pick up from the chat?
I believe there's
Sorry, Matt. Sorry, yeah. Just Adrian's raised a question about cross-border sharing of information, which I think if you could answer that one, please.
I can. So, what I talked about in terms of our work with Planned Care, we're at the very formative stages, so we're just in the technical design. Now, what we'll be wanting to do once we've effectively got a technical design is to go back to the Planned Care board, who are our sponsors. That's what I'm seeking to line up for next week, to describe our technical solution and then describe actually where we would like to pilot, because we've got to try and work small. We want to work with perhaps a couple of specialties, maybe in a health board, which is available, and then to be able to carry out the learning from that. Within this first phase, there's also a valuable part of user-centered design, which will be important to us. What we're very keen to do is to be able to share that initial design with other health board partners, so we can take advantage of your interest, or work out where the interest, particularly of people in Powys, or other health boards, may come in. So I'm not saying we haven't thought about it, we're just not at the stage, but we've fully documented what the technical design to be the start, even getting towards a pilot is. So it's one which we will consult with, and we will look to consult very closely, particularly with the kind of assistant directors of digital and directors of digital within all of the health board areas. Is that helpful, Adrian?
If you're happy for me to come in, yes, yeah, no, it is. I mean, I think we've just always got to be conscious that we've got some significant disadvantages across the border, and then add to that complexity Wales residents with English GPs, English residents with Welsh GPs. So even the message itself can be incredibly confusing. Just at the moment, Wye Valley are rolling out some online technology for appointments management, but again, it varies whether or not you've got where you live and where you're registered. So there's almost 4 different pathways to get into it, and lots of people can get into it through the wrong pathway. So for instance, I can get into it through through my NHS login, but it doesn't work because it doesn't tie to an English GP. And unless we get some of these things truly solved, we're always going to be disadvantaging our border communities.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's a part of this which we're looking to the future about something which we don't have today. So we don't have waiting list information or secondary care information available within our NHS Wales app. And we want to be, and we recognise, but actually needs a kind of careful approach with this, because like I described with kind of primary care, we want to make sure that there are no unintended consequences of any of our activities. So we, particularly I'm talking about clinicians, or particularly for booking teams and admin teams, because we recognise that something like this has significant service change implications, which we want to be able to get right and give confidence to people. So that's what we'll follow, and we'll make sure that we consult widely and ensure that the interests of border communities and those, not just border communities, those that have their care pathways through tertiary sector into England, are also accommodated. So it's one for the future, and one for making sure that it remains in our focus.
Thanks. And just very quickly then, in terms of just working with some of those ad and commercial partner agencies around the campaign, that might just therefore need to be some localizing around expectations management about the functionality that may or may not exist, and how we just nuance that in some of our border communities.
No, that's helpful. We'll do that. And I'll come across to Alan in a minute. But what I would say is we recognise that the functionality of our app today is very much enabled by GP practices. Now it's not a wholly consistent offer. Practices have different offerings across Wales. The purpose of our campaign is not to necessarily draw out that directly. That would be unfair for GP practices and unfair for the public. We want to be able to focus more on actually the NHS Wales app to the future, more of what could be provided. So that people can buy into it with confidence, because as much of this is not just the established base that we've got, established core platform, and where people can use functionality, it's a lot more of what's to come, and we're trying to iron out the what's to come so that people can buy into it with open eyes. Okay, sorry, Alan, I was keeping you there.
Absolutely fine. Thanks, Matt. I thought it was really helpful presentation and get to speed with where things are. Delighted to see your slide on the reflections from the All Wales Cluster Leads group, that's being picked up within there. Just wonder whether for the roadmap workshop you got set up for the 17th of September might be helpful to get a couple of cluster leads into that session. If that was okay, maybe link up outside of that with me and we can see what we can do in that kind of space. I'm a user of the app. I find it easy to use, and so we had conversations a year ago about that. I'm delighted to know that I like the app, so that's a good thing. I suppose I'm just building on the point that Adrian's made, the idea of this public launch and the differences that we have across Wales. So looking at the volumes that are going through, lots and lots and lots of people are using the repeat prescribing service, which is great. Significantly less people are able to book GP appointments, and not only will that be a variation within a health board, it's a variation within a town. So I live in Abergavenny. There are 3 practices in Abergavenny. There is one that would probably build on this really well. There are 2 others that would be completely opposed to anything that goes outside of the great processes that now get in place for on the day booking. So I think there's probably just some care need to be taken in that piece, which I think is what Adrian was saying about other parts of it, because it's more than a nuance. I think there are some significant differences, say even within towns across Wales. And if the message that's out there and just looking at the video is, and you can get a GP appointment, then I think that might just send off the message in slightly the wrong direction. So it's just maybe some care in that, I say. Whereas repeat prescribing, health journal, timelines, information about your record, etc. I don't think that's as much of an issue. But the GP appointment or appointment in the practice is not always necessarily with a GP. Could be with an AMP, could be a physio, pharmacist, etc. I think that's one we just need to be a bit of caution around. And that sounds like me being glass half empty. I'm not. I think you've done a really good job in it. It's just needs to give it a care in that space, I think.
No, you're absolutely right, Alan. And I recognise that myself. I recognise, I'm fortunate to a degree in that my GP practice offers quite a lot of services online, including appointments. And so, but I'm absolutely alive to the fact that not all do at the moment. And when I spoke to GPC Wales partners within the last month, I did reflect that some GP practices have had 15 months to get used to the NHS Wales app. They were the sort of vanguard, the early adopters. Other practices have had maybe 3 months, 3.5 months to get used to the NHS Wales app. And so it's unfair to directly compare them and to say actually the race is run. So there's a lot more work that we need to do. This is DSPP programme and DHW primary care particularly in terms of helping GP practices to be able to adopt the NHS Wales app. I put that slide up because I recognise there are things which we'll want to do to be able to help them to be able to adopt it. And of course, it's never a thou must. We want to be able to show that with partnership and pilot, how we can make aspects of the record available so that they can target different segments of their population on a manageable basis for them, because we recognise how pressed GP practices are. I'm really glad that you're gaining use from the app. We want to be able to enhance that medicines journey. So we're looking forward working with digital medicines on when prescription ready API is ready. Tell you when your prescription has been made, and the option of choosing where to be able to pick it up. And so there's more work to be done there, but that's what we'll be working in partnership on. And last thing on the video, we produced it to kind of show today, but it's not a main staple of the national campaign as such, and so it's not going to be there on the TV. Although I like Mike's voicing it, you won't get that exposure, Mike, I don't think, not quite yet. But it's really, really valid points. Okay, thanks, Alan.
Matt, sorry, just also to jump in that we have been providing specific media for the practices to promote the app so that they can put in their offering. So this the national campaign is broad sweep, so it covers everyone in Wales, but there is a lot of work going on to provide materials locally as well.
And that's well made, Joe. Any more as a questions from us in person, or anything else you want to pick up, Mike and Joe, from questions in the chat?
There's a question from on are we able to share which health board technology partners we're working with for the appointments and displaying waiting list information in the secondary care pilot, from Wendy Naylor.
Oh, it's a really good question, Wendy. We're not quite there yet. I say we're still, being really honest, we're still completing the technical design internally within Digital Health and Care Wales. There are systems within Digital Health and Care Wales we will need to rely on. There's a different stage of readiness of different health board partners depending on which system ultimately we choose. And so we're being guided by that. Next step, I said, would be for me to be able to speak to our planned care sponsors and to identify from them, based on kind of health board readiness, who would be best placed to partner with, and then to identify specialties, lead clinicians, booking teams, who we can start consulting with and building that plan. So I'm expecting that to take place from next week.
Have we lost Matt?
Yeah, Matt, I think your sound cut out there.
Anybody know semaphore?
Oh, can you still hear me or not?
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. Oh, vagaries of technology. So what I was saying was we will work with our planned care partners next week. We will identify the health boards and the specialties and maybe lead clinicians and booking teams to work with. We'll do that work by engaging with them in August. And then by the start of September, we'll hope to have far more detail on where we're going to be going. And we'll be able to bring that back to this group once we've made a bit of more progress in that area. Did you catch that?
Sorry, yes, I did. Thank you very much for that. The reason for the question is that I work for Induction Healthcare, which is one of the we provide Attend Anywhere, which is used across all the Welsh health boards, the video consultation solution. But we also provide a patient engagement portal. One of the ones that worked with KNOS actually for the NHS England app in the original cohort of providers. So that's why I'm interested in it from that perspective. Because I don't think there's that many patient engagement portals in use in Wales at the moment across the health boards. It seems to be a little bit scattergun. And this is a way of pulling it all together, obviously, the Welsh app. So
no, absolutely is, Wendy. So we'll have further progress this month, but we're excited about it. We want to be able to get underway, and it's going to be I kind of talked in that prioritisation update, saying it's going to be something which we're investing significantly in for quite a period of time, and we want to be able to get the return from it. So that's where the activity will be, and I'll bring an update in terms of where we've got to back to the next update session we're planning.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions, Joe or Mike, which you want to pick up?
I think that's it for the chat.
I think it's I think, yeah. Adrian, I don't know if your question is on IG cybersecurity, whether that's relevant to the cross-border or Sorry.
Yeah, no, it was really just a further comment of recognising that we've got some significant challenges in relation to cross-border join up because of needing to continue to comply with information governance and cybersecurity. So if we create an accidental pop in those bubbles, then we cause ourselves even bigger problems, don't we?
No, we absolutely do. And I suppose the last point that I'd made is that, I said we are learning all the time. Last week, well, we didn't expect to have, the Microsoft CrowdStrike outage, which affected, significantly across the UK and nationally. But pleasingly, we were able to work with our partners within DHW and with KNOS, and we were able to restore access to people who weren't able to order a repeat prescription or benefit from primary care services via EMIS within a matter of hours. And so there's lots of learning which we pick up from events like that in terms of how we flag to members of the public that we know there's an issue, we're resolving that issue, but we're able then to be able to resolve it and then to complete. So although it's not the obvious sort of front and centre thing which you often think about with the NHS Wales app when we talk about features, the nature of the work we've done has allowed us to improve all of those processes, which gives us far more confidence now that we've got a significantly greater user base and people who are benefiting from the app regularly. It does turn my hair a bit grayer, but that's just a nature of the operational aspect of the role. But I just wanted to provide that as well. Any other questions from anybody? Right. What we'll do is we'll provide answers to everything which we've relayed. Our next e-update, Mike, we were planning on a quarterly basis, weren't we? Because it gives us time to get on and do and to be able to report back to you actually more fully on what we've been able to achieve and then future plans. So can you just remind everyone, or just to highlight to everyone when our next e-update is planned?
Yeah, the next e-update will be scheduled for a date in November. You can expect the invite to come through the same channel as this one, so it'll be through email, and we'll be sending those out well in advance to give everyone enough time to register.
Fantastic. So what we'll be doing, we'll take up Alan's offer of a suggestion of a couple of cluster leads, people to partake in that prioritisation event, and we will be coming to the next e-update and talking about the outcomes of that event. So I'll explain what it achieved, both in terms of prioritisation and what our future next steps are going to be, as well as progress on those important features which I've described today. So I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to wish you all a good Friday and a brilliant weekend, and I'll hopefully catch up with you all soon. Thank you, everybody. See you off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.